million top line look like? Okay. So what we would recommend as of today, remember things change all the time, but that would be about 700,000 in, and that should be ARR. I apologize because MRR is monthly. So that you're doing that 700,000 is in recurring revenue, let's say. And then usually what we see is 20-30% of your MRR is going to be in project work. Okay. So that's a good rule of thumb for you to keep in mind, that for every, dollar of MRR, you should be getting 30 cents in project work. All right. Now, if you're not, then you're probably not doing QBRs, maybe not setting budgets properly for your clients. There's things you can do to improve that. The number of clients you need to, based on your average MRR, matters. So if you have 30 clients at $19.45 per month, you're there. If your MRR and you're targeting smaller clients, you're going to need 60 to get to that $1 million mark. Okay. Now you should know that for our Producers Club members, which is our higher level membership, the average MRR is about $22.81 per month. Okay. So, I don't know what your average is. One of the ways you grow your business is you move up in the quality of clients and size of clients that you serve. Now, your income, if you're at $1 million, your fair market salary as the CEO should be $90,000 to $100,000, right? And you should be getting about 15% EBITDA or more. Now, a lot of smaller MSPs, the first thing I hear is, I'm small, I can't generate the profit margins that the big guys generate. That is, I used to think that too, guys, I'm telling you, here's the reality. There are days I wish I could go back to when it was just me and an admin. I don't even want to tell you the margins on it. It's ridiculous. There was no overhead. I didn't have an office. I didn't have to have, a payroll company, employees, all the things. I mean, when your business grows, it actually is harder to maintain these margins. When you're small, guys, you should, at a minimum, should be doing 15%, 20% or more. So if you're not, it's purely because you're either not charging enough, or you are, you haven't calculated your prices, which is, I guess, not charging them, or you're just, your operations are a mess. So you're spending way too much time doing things that you shouldn't be doing, or your operations are not efficient, let's say. Or maybe you're not collecting the money you should be billing for. I mean, that's also another thing. I estimate about 20%, 30%, of revenue that you could have goes missing because you don't bill for things properly. But that's for another, you should be auditing yourself, right? So this is something from Jeff Farr. You're going to hear about Jeff Farr later. Jeff is our expert in residence, really on business turnaround, valuation, growth. He knows metrics and numbers. And so you guys are going to get an opportunity to talk to him about how much should you be growing, and what should your cost be, and how many engineers per endpoint, and all those things. So Jeff's coming on later. He's going to be with Will, and he's going to cover those things, right? So you're looking at a per seat. So if we say everything's the same, if you had 150 customers with 25 users, but you're charging $22 a seat, your MRR is only $555. You're only doing about $1 million. Let's say your profit's the same, but what I'm showing you here is the EV, and that is enterprise value. So if you were to decide to sell your MSP, or you had to exit your MSP, your enterprise value, same 150 customers, like same number of customers and users, you could see how the price point impacts your enterprise value, because it impacts your profitability, and it impacts your valuation. And so, guys, the thing you have to, this is not, look, I know we're saying just raise your prices, and a lot of you are saying, well, but how, right? It's not that, I don't even think you guys are disagreeing with us 100%. Will saying it's mindset. Some of it is mindset, and some of it is how do you do it, right? You want to make sure you know how to do it properly, but you do have to do it, because if you don't, you're not only making less money for all the work you're doing, all the risk you're taking, all the blood, sweat, and tears, but you're also hurting your enterprise value. And you don't want to do that, because at some point, guys, I wish somebody had told me this honest to God, I wish, when I look back, because I just talked to a group of marketing consultants, and they wanted to know, like, what campaign do we get to, do to get members to sign up, and what's the highest converting website? I said, guys, you know what? You're forget all that. I said, you need to be thinking about retention, business value. If I had known what I know now 20 years ago, oh my God, I wouldn't even be here. I'd own an island in the Bahamas, and I'd have Will Nobles as my pool boy. Are you paying attention, Will? Okay.
I am.
Okay, yeah, maybe volunteer. He would volunteer, right? I mean, I would it's ridiculous, the mistakes I've made. So one of the mistakes I made, guys, is not thinking about enterprise value. And I've gotten a lot smarter about it recently. It's never too late. But you really want to be thinking about that as an MSP. All right. So keep posting questions by the way, guys, because we're gonna answer them either live, or one of my team's going to be in the back handling those. Right. So let me share with you another statistic or some data I thought you might find interesting, because I do have several clients who make $1 million net. That's net profit. That's what they have to pay taxes on, right? And that's not this is in addition to their salaries. Okay. So what does $1 million net MSP look like? From the members we have, they're about 6.25 million. EBITDA is about 1.2 million. Annual MRR is 4.79, which is 77% of sales. They have about 155 clients. Their average MRR is about 2,600 per month. I'll bet you that's gone up recently. So I'll caveat that this was about a year ago that we pulled these metrics, and they have about 180 clients. Okay. So if you're going, hey, you know what? I'd like to get to $1 million top line. That's goal one. Goal two is, how do we get to $1 million bottom line, right? That's the next goal line. Here's a kind of general idea of how you get there. Okay. It at least gives you what's possible, because these are the median metrics for those clients of mine that are doing $1 million net. Okay. So what's keeping you small, stuck, and unprofitable? And this is in your workbook. We're on page 4. And really, I could go through some of these things here. You can read them, but things like not really having clarity on your goals or purpose. So like right now, if I pulled one of you out of here and I said, okay, what is your goal for this year in revenue, in MRR, in number of clients, and in profitability? Most of you would not be able to give me an answer that's concise and clear like that, because you haven't sat down and set goals. And if you don't have goals to shoot for, and then you're not tracking your progress to those goals, you're not going to hit it. So you might have a goal like, in 5 years, do you want to be $1 million net? That'd be a great goal. And it's probably going to take you about maybe 3 to 5 years. But you want to have, here's what it would look like. Here's how many clients. Here's what the EBITDA. Here's what we're going to be selling. You got to have clarity on that. Like, a lot of you also don't know business financials, which again, you're not stupid. I was in the exact same boat all of you were. I promise you, I was in the same boat. I didn't know what EBITDA was. I didn't know how to calculate it. I didn't know what enterprise value was or how to calculate it. I didn't know about gross margin and LER and, labor efficiency ratios and all this stuff. I had to learn it. And it took me a minute to learn it, guys. I'll tell you, I was a little slow on this. Great at marketing, but this kind of was, but you have to learn it. You might not really understand these, you need entrepreneurial business fundamentals and training. Some of you have a fear of success. You're in a comfort zone. You don't feel you're worth it. Maybe you're still trying to do it all versus building a team. Like, you're really not, you're operating your business like it's a job, like you're a manager managing a division or a job, like not thinking like a company, and you make decisions that way. And that's hurting you. Chaos, no planning, no tracking, no structure, or a desire to fit in. Like, you don't want to be criticized. So you don't want to go out there and do marketing because someone might criticize you, or you don't want to charge premium rates because somebody might criticize at you, or you might have a prospect who yells at you and says, how dare you charge those prices, right? And that leads you to be timid and play small and be passive. It might be you're just lazy in a certain degree. You don't want to do marketing and selling. So you're constantly looking for easy buttons instead of just getting in there and doing it right. Overreaction to negative circumstances. You're easily scared off, easily frustrated, deterred by setbacks, very easy. Look, guys, here's another thing you got to know. And you know this already. You don't need me to tell you. When you're running a business, you're going to have a lot of shit go bad. And guess what? It's all going to happen at once. It doesn't show up in a nice, neat, even like, okay, this problem showed up, whack-a-mole, knock it off. Next one okay, take the next. It doesn't like it's like dodgeball where the other team has 50 guys and they all have a ball and you don't have one, right? You know what I mean? Like, and you're just getting bombarded. You have to learn how to work through that. You're going to get disappointed. You're going to have failures. In marketing, think about it. 2% response rates, we win awards. That means we're wrong 98% of the time. 98% of the people told us to go stuff it, not interested, ignored us, blocked us, screened us, told us to go away, burned us online for even daring to sell anything. So if that puts you off easily, you're going to have a real hard time growing a business. You're going to have employees that screw up and steal from you and don't do the work and burn you. You're going to have clients that do the same thing. Guys, I've had it all. Part of your learning is being able to push through, not overreact, not to shrink back, but hold your ground and move forward on those things when those things happen. Not ability to, you're easily distracted, cheapness. When you run a business, guys, you have to invest. And this is a big thing because, invest in people, systems, process. That's why you see so many big platform MSPs, these what I call super MSPs that are private equity backed, just exploding because they go to a private equity firm and they invest a lot of money intelligently with a good business, a good platform, as they call it, and they scale it. Now, I grew my business without private equity. I own the business entirely. I've never brought in partners or anything like that. So it just only took me like 22 years to build, right? But I did invest. In other words, like I didn't take all the chips off the table. I took less money out of the business as the owner for years and was very frugal personally. It's kind of interesting because I live in a really big house, really nice house right now. But for the first, 15, 16 years, if you guys saw my house, you'd be like, that's where you live. I didn't spend a lot of money. I was very frugal. And I plowed all that money back into the business. So you got to be willing to invest. You just have to. And then thinking and making decisions like a tech with helpers holds you back versus an entrepreneur. And we're going to talk about that. So again, what's your vision and what are you building? Now, I talk about this tech with helpers. A tech with helpers, tech stands for tedious, exhausting, chaotic, and hard. And for a lot of MSPs or business owners, not just MSPs, but business owners, the primary motivation for having a business is not to have a boss. It is not to create enterprise value. It is not to create financial freedom. It is not to create a business that grows. They don't want to step outside the tech work. They're not even thinking about building equity, right? And I think, I honestly, hey, to each their own, right? But I still think the amount of work you have to do still, if you just change a little bit about the way you approach business and learn some new skills, you'd be amazed at what can happen, how exciting it gets. Because here's what I'll tell you, what I call the real entrepreneur, which is building a real business, which is what keep it real means. Rewarding, easy, attractive, lucrative. The primary motivation is to build that lucrative, thriving business. And when I literally talk to thousands of MSPs, guys, all across the world, all different stages of their business. And I have never met a tech with helpers who is genuinely, truly, deeply satisfied and happy with where they are. Like not one. Now they might say that, but deep down, they are not proud of what they're doing. They're frustrated constantly. They're annoyed with their customers. They constantly churn employees. They hate all the vendors, and they go on Reddit and talk about that stuff, right? I'm telling you, I've never met somebody who is playing small, who is deeply happy and satisfied. Real entrepreneurs, they might be small. By the way, a real entrepreneur, they might not be 50 million. They might be 500,000, but they're growing. They have a vision. They have a plan. They're working the plan. They're making progress. They can see the progress. They're working towards a bigger future. Those people are happy. Those people are sad. Yeah, they have problems, but they have a vision and they are making progress to that vision. And that gives them deep satisfaction. That really does. So that's where my program is not just about the marketing. It really is about helping you become the real entrepreneur that I think is inside of you, that you just need training, direction, and coaching. It's not something you're born with. I mean, the doctor doesn't like deliver babies and say, oh, this one's an entrepreneur. Oh, this one's something else or a tech. It's not how it works. They're skills. And just like learning how to do technical work, it's a skill. You learn how to do it. You can learn how to hire people and manage people, and you can learn finances and contracts. You can learn sales and negotiation. So that way it's not this weird thing, right? And so at a minimum, what I would tell you guys, we're going to jump ahead a little bit because it's in your workbook, but there's one thing I would say, no matter what you pick for yourself, and again, it's up to you. If you're happy with a $1 million a year business and that pays the bills and you're deeply happy with that, who am I to complain, right? Who am I to not complain, but who am I to criticize, right? But here's what I would say. At least know what I call your enough is enough number. And your enough is enough number is where you have enough money in income earning investments where you do not need to work another day. At least get to that point. Now, what that number is going to be different because my lifestyle is different than your lifestyle. And Will Noble's, holy shit, I mean, to keep him up, it's ridiculous, especially Logan. I mean, she deserves way more than she gets. He's going to be working till he's 150 to get that number, right? Because he likes private jets and all the stuff. But, us meager folks out here, our enough is enough number. So whatever it is, this is a personal number. But basically, here's what a real quick calculation is: take your current salary, whatever you need to live off of every year. Let's say it's $100,000, right? Well, you multiply that and the calculator tells you to multiply it by, I think, 25, but really let's do 30 to be on the safe side. You're going to need a lot of money set aside. That's the amount of money that you're going to need set aside in order to retire. So again, like take your calculator and say, well, look, let's see, if I needed $100,000 and I multiply that by 30, I'm going to need $3 million set aside, but it's not just 3 million because you got to pay taxes. So you're going to multiply that by 35. So you need more like 4 million. And you need that money set aside in income earning investments, not your house, because your house eats money, not your car. It doesn't earn investment. I'm talking about income earning real estate, investments, etc. Right? At least build a business for that, because this term lifestyle business owner or solo entrepreneur, it's a total BS concept. It's made up by some marketer to make small business owners feel better. And, because there is no such thing unless you have your enough is enough number and you're independently wealthy and you're just doing the work just to occupy yourself. Then lifestyle business, 100%. If it's just there to occupy your time, great. But if you're having to work because you got to work, then you ought not be doing a lifestyle business or be a solopreneur. There's no such thing as a solopreneur. An entrepreneur is somebody who builds a company that they own. So it's BS. And I'll leave you with my friend, a quote from Kevin O'Leary's my friend. We just had him at one of our events. You don't do it, meaning running a business for the money. It's not about greed. It's about personal freedom. The reason you want to be an entrepreneur is to be able to do whatever you want with your time anytime you want. That's the whole idea, to set yourself free to pursue the dreams you have. I would add on working with the people you like to work with the clients that light you up and enjoy doing the work you love. But you got to learn the stuff we're teaching, or you're going to be a slave forever to the dollar. Will, can you add anything to that, or do you thoughts?
No, I absolutely agree. A lot of the posts here, I love Porsches. So you got to strive for what you want. No, I do not take private jets. So that is a goal. But you got to strive with what you want to get. So if you set your bar low that, hey, I just want to get by, I want to make a good living, then yes, you're going to have a lifestyle business. If you want to grow a true company that's going to have retirement for you in the future, that you're going to be able to sell it and get good multiples for it, then you've got to actually put things in place outside of tech. Guys, and just to be very clear, I had no clue about marketing in 2016. I had a business card, a 5-page website, and a brochure. And I was spending probably 0.00002% in marketing back then. So, definitely make sure you implement things just like you implemented technology in your business. You have to turn around and implement marketing, sales processes that are outside of technology. We as techs, we always think technology, what can I improve there? That's great. But if you really want a true business, you've got to do other things.
All right. Very cool. All right. And yeah, I was going to make a comment about Kevin, because Kevin's kind of funny. I've had him, at our event. Like, how many times have I met up with Kevin? Good God, like 5 or 6 times. And that's an actual picture of me. I got invited to sit and watch Shark Tank actually film. So that's not like a CGI bullshit. That's the real Shark Tank set. Now, I wasn't being filmed. I was sitting with the like all the sharks have their admins and stuff sit off to the side. I was sitting over there. So anyway, I'll tell you about Kevin some other time. But so the good news though is being an MSP right now is very lucrative. Okay. So there's a huge total addressable market. It's continuing to grow. You guys have some of the lowest churn rate in any industry. The only industry that has lower churn rates is the utility companies. It's ridiculous. You guys have, some companies churn 25, 30%, 50% of their customers every year. You guys are should be no more than 12%. Sticky recurring revenue, high margins are in the services. You guys can really increase, you get high margin. I have friends that are in the restaurant business. Their margins are so thin, like grocery stores, so thin. You guys have no idea how good you have it in the sense of the margins that you're able to get. And there's a growing demand for IT right now. So I want to talk about the 3 opportunities that you're a fool not to capitalize on. You got to be thinking about. We are on page 5 of your workbooks. Please be taking notes. So I'll give you a second to get over there. Number 1, the demand for managed services is growing. Okay, so this is from Grandview Research, but there's dozens of reports out there. The managed services market is estimated at a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, they call it, of 12.5%. It is just continuing to increase year over year over year. And just to give you some stats from the peer groups, top line revenue for our members grew somewhere between 19 and 23%. So last year, if you didn't grow, or you're not growing at the rate of 19 to 20%, you're actually falling behind. So if you grew 10%, you didn't actually grow 10%, you fell behind by 9%. Private equity backed MSPs grew 76%. Now that's a service leadership metric. Thank you, Paul Sissel. MRR grew 23 to 30%. Cloud revenue grew 42%. That doesn't surprise anybody, right? It's growing faster than MRR. Hardware sales, just 11%. EBITDA, which is the net profit, was 11 to 19%. That's up from an average of 8% before COVID. Now, the other thing I want to show you is we have a group of members in our Producers Club. And these are our top clients, right? There's 5 of them in that group. Just to give you an idea, last year, their top line revenue grew 25%. So they added 1.14 million on average. They added 29 new clients on average. Their MRR grew $103,000 per month on average, and EBITDA was up 173%, which is just shy of an additional $300,000 on average. Okay. This is what's happening right now. If you are not growing at that rate, you are falling behind. There's huge opportunity. The second area for growth that you want to write in the blank is co-managed. Co-managed is where an MSP, one of you guys, goes and works with a company that has anywhere from 1 to 40 IT people, right? And it is projected to grow, as you can see, all the way through 2023. This is a growing market segment. So co-managed are more likely and even prefer long-term contracts. So they give you more predictable revenue. They're more professional and knowledgeable as buyers. So they tend to value IT and not look for cheapest price. The average contract size is larger than traditional MSP. So it's like 15,000 to 30,000. And 22% of the MSPs that we polled said they saw a considerable increase in co-managed, and 37% saw some increase. So you're looking at what is that, 59% are saying they saw an increase in the demand for co-managed IT. Now, that means the whole pies get bigger, because companies used to get to where, they would get to where maybe they get up to 80 employees, 100 employees, where they could justify hiring an IT person, and then they would fire their MSP. They couldn't wait. Now today, they can't do that, right? It's a totally different ballgame, because IT is so much more complicated and one guy can't do it all with cyber and compliance. So that's why co-managed is growing exponentially. The third area of growth is in compliance and cybersecurity. I put them on the same line. We could separate them, but as you guys know, compliance is the regulatory compliance is growing. It's not shrinking. The fines are getting bigger. The companies that are required to comply are growing. And so this is an area where you've got to really start looking at this, because even an everyday company, like take my company, for example, for us to get a cyber liability or crime insurance policy. Now, the crime insurance would cover us if we got ransomed or an employee embezzled money or something like that. We have to fill out an extensive application to get underwritten, saying we have things like two-factor authentication and employee awareness training and password management tools. And I can't remember everything. It's like I got to hand it over to my IT company, which happens to be Will, by the way, and say, dude, are we doing this? And I know if we talk to MSPs across the board, you're seeing this more and more. So another area you guys have to think about is, are you compliant, number one, but can you help these even small businesses with the services that you're delivering? Are they actually compliant? And can you help them become compliant? Now, obviously, you can't guarantee compliance, because compliance isn't just IT. And there's other areas, but definitely IT data storage and handling, the things that you do to protect personal identifiable information, PII, all those things you as an MSP have to know how to do. And if you don't, and you're not prepared for it, guys, you're in deep doo-doo, because there are companies that are going to fire you. I've just been doing interviews with some of the largest MSPs in our industry, and routinely, the reason they're picking up new clients is because it's lack of service. It's not because of price. It's not because, and it's because the MSP they have cannot deliver compliance. They cannot keep them secure. It is like, if as a business owner myself, like if I had an MSP that couldn't deliver PCI compliance, which is what we fall under, right? Or GDPR, I can't work with that MSP. I will be at risk as the owner of this organization, having all of my insurance to, basically declined, and I'm in breach of contract there. I could get sued. I could get fined. Like, I can't risk working with an MSP that can't do this. And I'm not even like a medical entity, right? just PCI compliance, securing payments. Every single one of your clients is touching some kind of financial or private information. You guys have to really get after this. And Will, I know you're going to talk about this a little bit, I think, in the next segment when we talk about your service. You're probably
Yes.
going to get questions about
Yep.
this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the average, and by the way, the average all-in seat price is rising due to this, right? So the average all-in seat price. So our friends over at True Methods, a lot of people think Gary and I are competitors, and we're really not. I mean, he runs a peer group, and I mean, we don't like date or anything like that, but we share information. So one of the things he shared with me recently, because they track this, we don't track this, is the average all-in seat price, and over there it's about $143. That's up 8.3%. Now we're suggesting your all-in seat price should be somewhere in the 150 to 175 range. Now keep your panties on. I know you're going to freak out because you're going to be like, Robin, I live in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, or I live in some unknown area where we still have phone booths and tumbleweeds and whatever. It doesn't matter. The cost of the tools is the same, and the labor is very, very high. So I'm just telling you guys right now, if you're sub 143, you're below average, which means you have room to move up, which means you have the ability to go back to your clients and say, we got to raise our prices. Now, of course, that depends on what you're delivering. Will is going to talk about this next. All right. So we're going to get a little bit into packaging and pricing, because I know this is going to be a big area. The average MRR for our clients is $2,281.25. That's up 21% from 2021. And that's an MSP that's doing about 2.7 who's reporting those numbers. Now, even if you're small, it doesn't matter. If you're $500,000, you're not that far from a $2 million a year MSP. It doesn't mean your pricing should be drastically lower, because you're using the same tools and you still got to pay engineers to do the same service. All right. So I promise you, Will's going to talk about this a little bit more. Yes, your seat price really depends on gross margin and what you're delivering, of course. But I'm telling you, if you're looking for a national average, this is kind of where you want to be looking. All right. Because this is an average. So this is not New York City or LA or Chicago or Dallas, where it's probably a hell of a lot higher. So, just keep that in mind, that this is not outrageous. This is about average of where you be. So again, just to summarize, 3 big opportunities: managed services, co-managed, and compliance cybersecurity are the 3 opportunities. Now let's talk about the threats. Okay. And we are on page 7 of your workbook. Okay. And I saw one of these things already mentioned. The threat number 1 is the rapid expansion of what I call super MSPs. And super MSPs are basically these private equity-backed platform businesses, or a large MSP that's growing through acquisition, and they're aggressively buying market share, and they're targeting your customers. They have big marketing budgets, big sales teams, and they can heavily invest in operations, new client acquisition, and back office support, right? This, like I saw somebody say, increased competition. So the thing is, guys, these people are in your backyard. So think about this. 77% of MSPs, small, maybe you guys, don't have a dedicated marketing manager, or there's nobody dedicated to marketing, like zero, as in none, not even you. Even though you're the owner, how much time do you invest in marketing? Probably none. So think about it. How can you grow? You're spending no time in marketing. 94% of MSPs don't have a dedicated business development employee. What I mean by a SDR, sales development rep, or a salesperson. These MSPs, these big MSPs, these guys, 40%, they have, they have 25 to 30% of their staff is dedicated to sales and marketing. And they have 4 times the money to invest in the marketing and new client acquisition. So you got to understand, these guys are going to crush you if you're not if you're not paying any attention. And I'll show you an example. You think, well, these guys are going after big accounts. They don't want my itty bitty little clients. Not so much. So Ryan Denny is somebody that we interviewed for MSP Success Magazine. He's the CEO of a MSP called Electric. They're based in New York, but they market all over the United States. Reported doubling his users and revenue in 2021 to go from 17 million to 38, and is on track to double again. I just saw the other day he has a valuation of $1 billion. That's how fast this dude is growing. And his target market are SMBs. They're on a mission to make IT easy for small businesses, not big business, small. Like they're marketing right now in Nashville. This is their marketing. It's great. Why Electric is a tier above other IT providers: chat-based real-time support, flat rate, transparent pricing, guaranteed initial response under 10 minutes. I mean, look at this. This is going to be tough to compete with. And there was an article from Channel Futures where he said most of ours MSPs in the US don't operate with enough scale, to provide the kind of services that are going to enable that make the most money and deliver the most complete experience to their customers. Small, mid-sized businesses, he said, can get better, lower cost help desk with Electric's approach, using chatbots to automate routine tasks and human technicians only when needed. So they're using AI. And more SMBs shift to SaaS apps, Denny says supporting them becomes easier. So you got to be thinking about this, guys. These are people that you think, oh, well, they don't want my customers. If you don't think somebody's waking up every day with the intent to take your customers, you're asleep. All right. So you got to really be paying attention. Now, can you compete with these guys? Absolutely. There are ways to compete against them. You don't have to roll over and die. But if you're just not doing anything in marketing and you're not paying any attention, you're going to be roadkill. That I can promise you. Threats number 2 and 3, I'm putting these together because they're kind of one and the same, is persistent inflation and labor shortage. Now, here's something I just learned today. All right. So you're seeing that inflation's not as high. But here's, and I was thinking about, because I started researching this, I'm thinking, they're showing inflation coming down. But the question is, why the hell haven't I gotten a discount from any one of my vendors? Why are employees still, like, the cost of labor is the same or going up? I mean, is anybody out there, can you honestly say that, oh yeah, everything's gotten cheaper since the high of July of 22? I don't think inflation went up, everybody raised their prices, nobody came back and gave us a discount. But here's the other thing I didn't realize. They changed the way they report inflation. So it used to be on a 2-year cycle. So if we look at, let's say, January of 2023, we would look at it compared to 2021. So it's like a 2-year span. They recently changed this in January to go to a 1-year, so inflation doesn't look as bad as it is. But guys, I'm telling you, inflation is still extremely high. B2B services are cost. I just saw another statistic that SaaS application software is up like 55%. It's like insane. So guys, if you have not raised your prices, you're in trouble. Here's some old ways MSPs are packaging and pricing their services that needs to change. Some of you are still only selling labor and maybe putting an RMM and an antivirus on there, right? And so then when you go back to a client, every time you want to add something, the client feels like you're nickel and diming them because you haven't bundled it all together and sold it at a price that they need. You keep going back and sort of henpecking them, right? Or you got to go back and sell it and then you struggle to sell it, okay? Or the worst thing is some of you include it and you don't make it, okay, well, that's only $1 a license or it's $3 a license. I'm just going to include it. But you don't think that impacts your labor and your costs because you have to support it. And that does hit your gross margin. So that if you're doing any of these things, you have to stop. A lot of you are not offering advanced cyber compliance services. And again, a lot of people need this today. So just to stay competitive, you're going to have to do that. Will, Mike Bazaar, Brian, the next group that's coming up, they're going to talk to you about that. No defined scope of work, no hard edges, and it kills your profits because scope creep. Clients will wear you out with things. If you don't bill them, they're going to just run you over. So you've got to make sure that you are being very, very clear with projects and hard edges to your managed services, what is included, what's not, and do not let your client get free stuff because they won't appreciate it. Number one, if you just do it for them and they don't even know you're doing it for free, there's no power. They just think it's part of what they're paying you for. You get no juice for that. Or it sets the tone that you're going to give away free stuff. Okay. Every client is a different contract, makes it hard to bill. You got to stop that. You got to get packages so you can scale. Many of you are still offering break fix. Again, that's chaotic. You can't scale on that. And a lot are dragging old underpriced contracts forward. So again, you got to stop that as well. So just make sure you get all that. I'll give it there for. Okay. This is the list of the stop doing list. Okay. Now the tough labor market's driving up labor costs. So, the labor shortage has been going down. If you look at this graph, in 2010, we had high unemployment, but just, the cost of, or the jobless rate has just been dropping. So all the presidents all along the way saying, oh, I'm fixing, look at me. We're, unemployment, we're fixing unemployment. They're all full of shit because the thing's been dropping forever. And then in 2020, COVID kind of like covered it up where everybody got laid off and then we went right back down. But the problem we have now is we have more open jobs than we have people to fill it, right? So that just, what it does is it just makes labor expensive because we're fighting. So you have to raise your prices. I can tell you in general, most MSPs have raised their rates by 20 to 30% over the last 12 to 24 months. Now, if you are generating 20% EBITDA after you pay yourself a fair market salary, you're doing great. Okay. But if not, your salary is not EBITDA, guys. All right. You should be generating 20% profit on top of your salary. You got to pay your techs more. I just saw something according to Dice tech salary. They said the average tech salary was about 104,000. So you can see right now, this is why you're going to have to raise your prices. Your customers got to know it. It's just the labor's costing more. You need to seek MRR, not just projects or break fix. And you need to find better quality clients who are going to pay the rates that you want. Okay. So again, just to summarize on page 7, you're dealing with aggressive competition, super MSPs, hyperinflation, and labor shortage. And again, Will Nobles is going to be talking about this in just a minute here of how do you package and price things so that you are competitive? Because, do you have a plan? If not, you're going to be in trouble. And we are going to get into more in the workbook. We're on page 7. I'm going to talk about 7 strategies to build real business strength and stability right now for smaller MSPs, right? And we've already been harping on this. And one of the things I really need you guys to do, because this is going to help you get from being small to getting growth, is you've got to have recurring revenue. Sorry, I've just got to take a drink. This is vodka. No, I'm just kidding. It's not vodka. All right.
That's how you stay so hyper.
Might be vodka. You never know. I'll tell you, that's a damn lot of vodka. If that's vodka. Okay, we're in trouble. My kidney just like crawled up, shriveled up, and left the body, if that was vodka. All right. So number 1, we're on page 9. I'm giving you a minute to write this down, is recurring revenue. You've got to get recurring revenue. I'm still surprised how many of you are still not charging recurring, like you're still doing break fix, guys. Get over that. Stop that already. There's not a network out there that doesn't need ongoing support. It just doesn't even exist anymore. So you got to get recurring revenue. Now, on page 10 of your workbook, we're going to talk about this. All right. So how most mess this up? Number 1, a lot of you have the inability to explain the necessity of managed IT. So I'm up here, just to be clear, we're on page 10. All right. Okay. Following along. Okay. Inability to explain the necessity of managed IT and cyber, I would say. Number two, including too much. All you can eat is a bad idea. And number three, never going back to your break fix clients to upsell them. Right? So you go to them once with a probably horrible pitch. Sorry to say, guys, I love you, but seriously, you go to them once and they say no, and then you never go back again. You want to try them again and again. You might, like in our program, we have a campaign to convert break fix to managed services. And in general, I have never had a client get less than 20% of their clients to convert to managed by just running this campaign, right? So there's opportunity there, and you don't want to do it once and you wait 6 months, you go back, you do it again. So these are ways that you can really mess up your service, your service offering. Okay. Now, if you want to grow, your service offering has to be three things. It's got to be scalable, it's got to be profitable, and it's got to be competitive. All right. So write that down, because scalable in the sense of, if you're going to keep adding customers, you got to think about servicing that business. So it has to be scalable. That's what I mean by scalable. It has to be profitable. Obviously, if we start doing marketing and we start adding unprofitable customers to your business, we're going to sink you. So you got to make sure it's you don't want to be going back to clients 3 months, 6 months later going, oh my God, we got to raise our rates by 30%, 40%. You got to make sure they're profitable from the get-go, and you got to make sure they're competitive, because you can't raise them so much that you're out of market. So, those three things, all of these things have to be in line. Now, to cover this, I'm going to have Will Nobles come up. He already talked about this. He's on camera, as you can see. He's the owner of Vector Choice. They're $12 million.